Welcome to Get Property Wise Wednesday chat with Candice and Leroy. So it's good to be back with you all. I think it's been a while since Leroy and I have been online together at the same time.
Yes. You've been on holidays and away, and it's been a while. Eh?
Well-needed break.
A well-needed break. I need a break now.
Yes. So how are things on your side? How's the last week been for you?
Good man. Been on Zoom. I've been on Zoom all day. I actually said now I'm tired of Zoom and these lives. I'd actually like to meet someone in a restaurant. So next week, all my meetings are in a restaurant. I'm tired of Zoom and being alone in a room. I don't know, but it's been good. I viewed properties last week when you were gone, Candice. I viewed a building, 14 units, 4 shops. Been struggling to sell. Owner wants to put together an installment sale, or where you pay him off over 24 months or 36 months. So we're looking at how that works and what contract can be put together for that. So that's what I'm looking at now. Yeah, I got for my multi-let, which is rooms, which I couldn't find a managing agent to manage it because they didn't want to manage the rooms. It's communal kitchens, communal bathrooms, and no agent actually wanted to manage it. So I found an agent to manage it. So that's exciting because I'm not actually a good manager. I'm not going to lie to you. My admin skills are not too great, and so it's better for me to give it to a managing agent. They manage it, and I look for new deals. That's my strength. So yeah, it's been a productive week and a half. Your side?
That's good. So before we actually went away on our break, so we were away from last week, Monday, for the whole week. But before we went away, we actually did have an opportunity to go and view some deals as well. So we are in the process of still looking for affordable housing opportunities within the Ekurhuleni region. So we are still in the process of doing that. So we managed to tap into some opportunities, and we, to our amazement, we actually found that some of these properties have really been on the market for a very long time. So some of them are spade ready. So that means, you're good to go. But it's just amazing how some of them have actually been on the market for a long time. So that's a positive for us, because obviously there's some good negotiating opportunities there, especially considering that the properties have been on the market for a while. But so that's been where the focus has been at this time. And of course, we went away last week, which was just awesome. I mean, we came back this week. I'm still.
You look happier.
I feel much lighter, and I must say that I feel like I'm still in a relaxed mode. I'm still trying to get into the swing of things, but I'm sure it will kick in soon. But Leroy, I just realized it's so important to actually just take these short little breaks, and I think maybe every quarter. I think that is probably the ideal situation, is to go away every quarter, and I think also especially because of lockdown and the effects that it has had. And I think even though we've been productive, like you say, it does get a bit much, always just doing everything on Zoom and online, and just being in the office all the time. So yeah, life has changed, and I think it's important to also look after yourself and find ways to actually get out and get away.
It's weird that even though you were in lockdown, you still need to get away, eh? Even because you're at home basically for how many months? 3 months, 4 months? I can't remember how long we were.
No, it's longer than that. We started at the end of March. It's already almost November. So I think we're about 7
in the lockdown
months.
where we couldn't leave, everything was closed. That was about 3 months, I think, eh?
Yeah.
So that was quite awkward. Okay, so that's good, guys. So things are happening. Maybe let us know. I see we've got a couple of people on. Let us know what's happening on your side. Are you viewing properties? Are you putting in offers? Are you having success? Are you having challenges? What's happening on your side, so we know? But what I found, Candice, is I actually have a golf. I went to play golf Friday, by the way. I've got this in my don't know why I
in
got
your
my
hand.
I just it's just on the desk and I was playing with it. Went to play a nice round of golf last week Friday, so that was cool. But what I found with the prices is that a lot of the sellers are actually sticking to they're actually quite tough with the negotiation. They're actually sticking to their price. I've seen now with the last, I've put in lower offers. Guys are just not accepting the low offers. They want what they want, and they're not willing to negotiate. They're even willing to wait until they get the offer that they want on the property, which I thought there'll be a lot more room for negotiation now.
Yeah. I also just think it, depends on the type of seller that you're tapping into. I have also come across some deals where sellers are not negotiable at this time, but I've also come across deals where sellers are really negotiable, especially where their properties have been on the market for a while, and then they're in a situation now where, they just want to sell off that particular property, for whatever reason. So I do see some of them are negotiable, but I think, for sellers at this time who are not prepared to negotiate on their price, some of them will probably see their property staying on the market for a longer period of time in comparison to someone who's a little bit more negotiable.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I think at this time, if you've got a buyer that really qualifies at this time, or you have a tenant that really qualifies at this time, I really think that we need to be a little bit more flexible, in terms of our negotiations when it comes to working with sellers and tenants, because I still anticipate that this economic market that we are in at this time is going to take an even further dip. And of course, it's going to have a negative impact and effect on our property market. So I still see that we are possibly going to be taking a dip. I mean, some of the people that I've spoken to just in my network, over the last couple of weeks have started receiving, some of them that are still in employment roles have started receiving voluntary retrenchment requests. So they're in a situation now where they are in the last 2-3 months of working, and soon they're going to be, basically retiring from that role. And what's going to happen, when the market takes an even bigger knock as far as retrenchments are concerned? So I know I've read somewhere in an article that we've lost I think it's about 2.2 million jobs have been lost up to now, and that they are expecting that that's obviously going to just increase significantly, and especially over the next couple of months. And I think that's going to put a lot of pressure on the market, on the property market. So that means that other sellers will definitely need to become a little bit more negotiable, especially those that think they can still get, the prime rates out there. And of course, I think even for landlords, we're also going to have to become a little bit more flexible, maybe even as far as our rental properties are concerned. I mean, I've got a property on the market now, and it's been on the market for about a month and a half, and I've received some interest, but not massive interest. So we're just going to see how things are going to be going. So, but there's potential. I might have to actually bring that rental down, in the next month or two, if I don't find an interested or the right tenant, if I can put it that way. So we're going to see massive changes in the market going forward.
Yeah, man, but with changes comes opportunity, eh?
Always.
I always say no problems, no profit. So you only make profit by solving a problem. So if you have a lot of problems, which means you can make a lot of profit because you can solve a lot of people's problems. So I think it's a massive opportunity coming up. I actually found a building, the same one I was talking about, the 14 units, that the owner's actually not charging them. He's actually, where he should be charging 4,000, he's charging 2.8. And he's just had those tenants for so long that he could be charging a bit more, but he's not. So I'm thinking, once you buy it, if the deal works, if it makes sense, if we come to an agreement, then I'll actually ask for vacant occupation, painted, just fix it up, tidy it up, make it look nice again. Not even new bathrooms, just new kitchen cupboards, paint, and then push up the rentals slightly with a 300, with a 500. And then I actually think you could add value to that property and increase the rental slightly.
Yeah, so I'm sure there are lots of opportunities for that. One of the things that I've been focusing on is definitely, just to pay careful attention to the trends actually. So I've been observing, I've been reading some articles, and I've also been just spending some time on some of TPN's articles in terms of what's happening, on the rental side of things, because of course we need to know what's happening on the rental side of things. If we are looking at investing in property for cash flow and we want to rent it out, we need to know what's happening in the market. And it's quite interesting when you go and read some of the statistics that they share with us, that the higher end properties are definitely taking a knock at this time. Mm-hmm. So they definitely taking a knock at this time. And there seems to be the vacancy rate has definitely gone up as far as those high end properties are concerned. So I'm talking about 25,000 and up. And then it also seems like the lower end rental categories in terms of 3,000 and less have also taken a bit of a knock. So we're also seeing some vacancies there. So I really think that we just need to see what's happening with the trends and where the opportunities are. And of course, every area is going to be different. And I think we need to understand that as property investors as well. So, you really need to, before you go into that investment strategy, just ensure that you have done your research and use, platforms like TPN that share some statistics and information with us, so that you are able to actually see what's happening in the market before you start making those decisions. But I agree with you, where there are problems, there are always opportunities. And I still believe that there's a massive, massive opportunity in property. If you have access to capital today, or if you have access to finance and you are able to tap into the right deals where the demand is, and also understanding the trends in terms of how people are renting properties now, I definitely think that there is an opportunity. But I think we definitely need to spend just a little bit more time, on our.
Okay, I think Candice.
Yeah, massive, massive opportunities.
Your line is a bit bad there. I think we missed the last part of it. But yeah, there is, and I think from what I saw is that as well, with the alerts that I get on properties, is that there's a lot of commercial problem, like offices, these houses that were offices. I see that a lot of those are coming onto the market now, where these houses are converting to offices, office blocks and things. People are selling them, and I think mostly because, as we were saying, everything is being done from home now, or Zoom or whatever. And those are coming up. So if you have a plan where you can potentially take an office block or an old or building or whatever and convert it back into maybe a multi-let or residential, I think potentially there can be opportunity there as well. And you mentioned something about Airbnb, that on the coast and all these Airbnb, that a lot of these properties are coming up for sale as well.
Yeah, so last week, as we were traveling and we were on the south coast of KZN, we went all the way up to Port Edward. And traveling all the way to Port Edward and obviously going back again, there were so many properties that had the for sale boards on them. So, and I've also read some articles where a lot of coastal properties are up for sale now. And of course, that's, that area is really known as a holiday accommodation area. And of course, with international travels being restricted, and initially we also had some local travels restricted, those businesses have been impacted significantly, and one can understand it from a holiday perspective. But also what I've seen is that in terms of reading some articles, is that people have made some changes. So with being able to work remotely now, it seems like some people have actually started taking up some of the opportunities that have become available on the coast now. So some people have already started moving, relocating, buying properties on the coastal areas for better quality of life. So obviously some of those properties are a lot more negotiable at this time. Sellers want to sell quickly, for whatever reason. And people realize now that they're able to work from home So they're no longer office bound like before. And of course, a lot of companies have given some flexibility as far as that is concerned. So that's an interesting trend that I've also observed over the last while. But of course, I have still seen that there are still some properties on the coast, that on the South Coast, specifically in terms of the areas where we were at, that you still see some of those boards are up there. But yeah, it would be interesting to see what's going to happen with some of those properties, because I was thinking, as a property investor, what can you do? Are you able to rent out, those properties in that area? And if you think about it, not all of them will actually qualify as multi-lets or as buy-to-let properties in that area. Why? Because it's so far away from the city and productivity, that there's not really a lot of work opportunities in that area. So you will not really have a lot of demand for tenants in that particular area. So it's difficult. Yeah. So either you have to sell it to an investor who's probably got some cash flow at this time, or you sell it to someone who's wanting to move to the coast and actually want to make that their new residence.
So if you have a bit of bucks now, if you had a couple of million stashed for this time or whatever, then now's your chance to go get your beautiful holiday house, eh? Buy up one of these Airbnbs that are struggling, and buy your dream house. I think we've got a few people on here. Eh? We've got Michelle. Hi, Michelle. How are you? And Dee's on. We got Constance. Constance actually has a question, Candy.
Yes.
She says that's so true. Have a flat that I rent out. The tenants are now affording only half of the rental. My dilemma is that if I chuck them out, where am I going to get the tenant? But again, how long will be running at a loss? Frustrated. That's a disadvantage of Airbnb, but it's worth looking at. Yeah, so she says a tenant is struggling, maybe got short paid or not being paid, and they're paying half the rent. And yeah, she says, but if she put them out, where will they go, and where will she find a new tenant? That's from Constance.
So if I was in that situation, I think what I would have done is, obviously I'm assuming that they are probably on a month-to-month agreement at this stage. So, I would definitely then keep the tenant on that month-to-month and start marketing, the property already, so that I can start finding a new tenant. And because at least she's able to collect some sort of rental at this time. And I'm not too sure how long the situation has now continued. And of course, we're hoping that there was some sort of deposit in place and she's able to recuperate some of the losses from there. But I mean, if you're able to collect some sort of rental and you haven't had any issues with your tenants, then I would say it's worth considering doing them on a month-to-month. So when you do find a new tenant, then that you're able to put your new tenant in at the rental that you are looking for. And of course, that tenant will be vetted and they'll be able to afford it. So I think as landlords, we really have to become a lot more.
COVID, so that's about 7 months, she says. 7.
Oh, she's been in the.
Since COVID started, we're paying off the rent. I will start advertising myself, Constance. I would get an agent on it and say, listen, do you have tenants? And I would start giving that tenant notice. And because what I'm sure you've got expenses. I don't know if you have a bond, you've got levies, you've got rates, you've got maintenance on that. So you're running at a loss. And I would start advertising. Stevens, how are you? Lujan, guys, any questions? Any challenge that you guys are experiencing right now with your rental properties or with buying a property? What are the challenges that you guys are experiencing? So Constance, personally from my side, I would start advertising. I would start say, because you have given the tenant time to sort out their affairs, and obviously it doesn't seem like things are working out. So I think it's time for them to maybe downgrade and for you to find a tenant that can afford that rental. And you might have to, if they can't pay the 7 months outstanding, which I'm sure there's quite a bit outstanding, then you might have to cut your losses, get a tenant that can afford it, and then it's tricky times. Are you Are you managing it yourself, Constant, or is a letting agent managing it? Let us know. Are you managing it
Yeah.
yourself or letting agent?
Yeah, no, so definitely, I mean, sure, 7 months is a long time, and of course, taking a massive knock there. So yeah, Leroy, I agree with you. I think it's time for her now to start looking for a new tenant. And I mean, she's got the tenant, she gives them notice or decides to convert it into a month to month. If you're able to do that, convert that contract into a month to month. And, you know, at least you're still able to collect some sort of rental whilst you're now looking for a new tenant. And yeah, but it's definitely, you need to start exploring different options. I mean, I said to one of my coaching students that I had a chat with earlier on as well, because I've also been observing some of the trends, and I see that, you know, what's also becoming available as a rental strategy now is commune living. You know, so that is something for us also to consider as landlords. Maybe before it wasn't a strategy that you were open to, but, you know, I think it's worth talking to the agents in the area and see if there's an opportunity to rent out, you know, let's say, for example, if it's just a 2-bedroom apartment and you maybe have two professionals who are not really, they don't really know each other, but they're comfortable to consider staying together. I mean, those are options that one needs to look at as well, as far as your rentals are concerned. So we need to become a lot more creative and innovative at this time, and a lot more flexible as far as our strategies are concerned. So I just said to her, in the area where she's currently focusing on, I know that there are a lot of, you know, companies within that area, especially tech companies, and there are a lot of young professionals staying in that area. And I definitely think that young professionals, if they could have some sort of a commune living, and of course it's got some of the, you know, the facilities in place already, some furniture in place, I think they would possibly consider maybe even friends moving in together or colleagues moving in together. So I think we also need to find ways to also share that message, you know, in terms of how we prepare to actually rent out our properties and take it from there. But we definitely have to become a lot more creative now at this time as landlords.
And I think, yeah, that's true. And I think multi-let it's been working well. And I think if you've got a nice multi-let close to work where they can rent a nice room or whatever with, as you say, communal, or they've got their own bathroom and their own kitchen, which is affordable, I think those ones will be taken now. Yeah? The only challenge,
Yeah, and
I think, with is some of the management is a challenge with that. And I think if you're buying a multi-let, I think that's also because the banks don't finance multi-lets. So you have to buy a normal house and then convert it, or buy a house cash, which is already a multi-let, if you have the cash available, or if it's inner city, close to the inner city or inner city property, which you can convert, or is a multi-let, you can use Tough, a place like Tough will finance you for rooms or whatever.
yeah, and I mean, if you buy an apartment and it's a good in a good condition and you work through the banks, I mean, that's fine. You can always, you know, if the opportunity is there to convert it into a multi-let strategy, you can always consider that, you know. So I'm just saying it's important to explore all options, whether it's buy-to-let, multi-let, a communal type of strategies. You know, we need to start thinking outside of the box, especially if we want to continue investing and continue renting out our properties. So that is why I think for me personally, you know, I find that I'm spending more time, you know, researching trends and areas compared to what I did before, because times have changed. You know, so it's important to understand what's happening, you know, before we make those decisions. And especially now, if you're looking at, you know, also looking at development type strategies, you know, you have to become what value are you going to be bringing to your potential client, you know, because we know that there are properties on the market now. I've seen some developers where they've had to convert some of those properties that they actually wanted to sell. They've converted them into rentals now because they're not able to sell those properties.
But it's, as you said, yes, it's interesting because it's also area, because I was listening to a while back. First month of lockdown, there was one on with the real estate magazine, and they had Baldwin on there, the owner of Baldwin. They had the guy from Melrose Arch. And a lot of these guys said their properties were selling, right through lockdown. Some people have said they've made more sales now than what they've ever done before in their lives. Some estate agents are saying they're making more sales. I think that's something to do with the interest rates coming down and first-time home buyers buying a lot of these properties. So it's interesting that what was my point going to be? That some places are selling, some places are struggling. So I think do your research. Now is the time where you make sure. With development costs, do you think it went up or down, Candice, now during this time?
With what? Sorry, say that again.
Development costs, developing a property. Do you think it went up or down?
You know, we've been looking, so obviously, costs have escalated. I mean, costs escalate year on year, that's just because of inflation. So we'll always find costs are escalating. So as far as developments are concerned, what we're also looking now, especially with some of the challenges that we've had around electricity and power and all the outages that we've had around that, is that you now need to find ways to actually, bring in different solutions. And I'm talking here also about solar power. And maybe in the beginning, it might be a little bit of an investment that you have to make. But I also think that will become a lot more negotiable, because where there's going to be more suppliers, I do believe that the pricing will come down from the ones that are already in the market. So I definitely think the pricing is going to come down from a capital investment perspective as far as those solutions are concerned. But I definitely think that's something that we need to consider going forward, because with all the outages that we've had and that we are still expecting, think about it. If you are a new buyer and you hear about a specific complex that has become available, and there's another one that's already been on the market, and now you hear about the one that's got the solar power solution and it's maybe got some additional facilities on the actual property. I mean, as a buyer, putting myself in that buyer's shoes, where am I going to go? I'm going to want to go where I'm going to have less problems, where I'm going to have more convenience, and where it's going to be a better living experience for me. So I think some of the developers that are doing really well at this time, I think have become also innovative in terms of their location, where they are currently located, also some of the services and facilities that they make available as part of their development. So I think that trend is going to continue picking up. So we need to start looking at ways. You need to look at the potential buyers and see what's going to be more convenient, more affordable, and what's going to be a better lifestyle experience for them, obviously depending on which category of people you are focusing on. But I definitely think we need to start looking, even as far as our developments are concerned. And even if you are just developing, I think if you take a property, for example, you've got a house and you maybe want to develop that into a multi-let type of accommodation, you also need to be more creative. For example, think about it. If you've got fiber in your area, okay, and you now want to do commune living or multi-let living, and there's another property, exactly the same standard, but they don't have fiber, where do you think tenants are potentially going to consider, renting from?
So you can add value, bring in more, so you keep your tenants, you keep them happy, they stay, and they make sure they pay.
Yes, so we need to know our tenants and we need to know what's going to work for them. And at the end of the day, it's about keeping your tenants happy. And if you've got tenants today and they maybe not paying their full rent, okay, Constance's situation is a lot more severe. But what I'm saying is, if you're in a situation where your tenant is asking for some sort of flexibility and you're able to at least pass on some sort of flexibility because they're a good tenant, you've had them for some time, I think we need to be open to relationships like that, and also realize that we are in a difficult economic climate and we need to be accommodating to some of those situations, because it's better for you to collect some sort of rental from a good tenant that is looking after your place compared to having an empty property and not knowing when you're going to be finding a tenant. So I think whilst you're busy advertising, if the situation has really escalated, then of course you can start looking for a new tenant. But I think sometimes we need to be a little bit more flexible and understand the situations and then decide what is a win-win situation for both parties. So
but we have been flexible. How long should we be flexible for? I've been flexible now for 7 months. My flexibility is gone. I can't be any more flexible than I've been done being flexible. I don't know how you feel, Constance. But
But that's good. At least you
I've been flexible and I've lost a lot of money, so I don't even
Yeah, but you've been flexible, Leroy. But what I'm saying is, of course, I know your situation. You've also had some challenges with some of your tenants, but I'm talking now about situations where, you've had good tenants in place. They've been paying. I mean, some landlords have tenants that have been there for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, some even 5 years, you understand? And now they've hit a little bit of a knock. And of course, if there is some sort of plan of action in place and you can, accommodate them, then I'm just saying, let's look at those situations. I know it's about...
I'm done being flexible.
Okay, so Constance is also feeling you, eh? She's feeling the exact same way. Now, Constance, in your situation, I think you've been very flexible already. So I definitely think that it's time that you start looking at alternatives. So definitely there. But everyone, thank you so much for joining. And I see some of you are online. I don't know if some of you have some more questions. Stevens, thanks for the shout out there. It's always good to see you online. I don't know if some of you have some, other scenarios that you are maybe going through. We're just having a general talk today and just sharing some of our views about the current property market and of course some of our experiences and what we are seeing in the market. So I think sometimes it's good just to have these informal type of conversations and just hear from one another what's happening and of course how you've been able to resolve some of your issues. I mean, Leroy went from managing one of his properties on his own to actually giving it over to an agent, and he was able to at least, add a little bit of an increase in terms of his rentals to obviously take care of that additional fee that is coming into place now. So, that's what we need to look at. We need to look at new ways of how we're able to still, collect some sort of positive income or profit income, and at the same time, still be in a position where we are able to maximize our time, because he's now at a place where he's looking for more deals. So, we need to look at those types of scenarios and solutions. But anyone out there who wants to share some more information with us?
While they can, they actually want to read something. This is I just went looking for this email now. This is an email for the complex where we stay in. It says, this is the managing agent says, now this is when you're talking about solar power and greening and energy efficient. Listen to this. Dear owner, Ekurhuleni, every year on the 1st July, Ekurhuleni increases their rate on electricity, water, sewage, refuse, and rates. Electricity increased with 8%. Water increased with 13%. Sewage increased with 10%. Refuse increased with 0%. Now tell me, how do you guys feel about that? That's 10%. That's 8% electricity. Sewage increased 10%. Water increased 13%. Can you increase your tenants' rent now, or can the tenants afford? Because the tenants pay for the electricity, they pay for the water, they pay for the sewer, they pay for the refuse. This is not sustainable, eh?
It's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable.
And especially during this economic climate. But, I don't even want to go into a politics conversation, because we probably know why some of those increases are being passed at this time. So it's that's a conversation all on its own. Why we are seeing all of these increases.
Let's leave this for next week, because I think we've run out of time now. Let's go into this email next week, and let's talk about how we can, what's the right word here? Use your nice English here, Candice.
I think it's just unpacking some of the changes that we're going through.
Yes. And how we can look at managing these costs. That's what I want to say. As an investor, how we can look at managing these costs, because it's just not sustainable. You can't, because what's going to happen is tenants will not be able to afford it anymore, because they won't be able to afford electricity, water, that increases because of the inefficiencies of the municipalities and whatever else, the water, like Eskom. And now they're pushing all that cost onto us. So yeah, man. So these are things we need to look at. I actually think this is a massive thing. When I was at one of Tufts conferences last year, they said what's happening is a few tenants. Now, guys, we're not here to just talk about doom and gloom. They said a lot of tenants that are now moving to squatter camps to avoid these costs. Electricity, water, sewage, because they can afford to live in a 1-bedroom flat, but they can't afford all these extra costs.
But you see, I think this is even a bigger conversation. I mean, this even goes on to the municipalities and it goes on to the government. You understand what I'm saying? So all of these costs that are now being recuperated from landlords and owners, and of course, as you say, in many situations, we are not able to increase the rental at this time, and for obvious reasons. So who's going to be carrying those costs, you know? And I think it's really definitely a topic that we need to unpack a little bit more, get more views and opinions. And let's just start this discussion and conversation and let's just see where it takes us, but definitely something that we need to talk about and start raising.
So yeah, man, interesting. So I think let's look at that. Maybe we can go into that, municipalities and municipal fees and costs, and see how we can maybe, let's see, can we get someone who's potentially a greening or solar power guy that can maybe come with solutions, or we'll have to look for someone and maybe come in and advise us on what we can do as landlords, as investors, to help us and help our tenants with these costs.
For sure.
As well. So I think that'll be a good conversation to have. So yeah, guys. So thank you. I think we've come to Candice. Anything else from your side? We don't have any questions. Stephen says.
Okay, great. So thanks for that. So I think just to just also inform for our listeners out there, that for those of you who don't know, remember we've got our free listing package available on propertypick.co.za. So if you have a property today that you need to list, we've got that free listing package available. You're able to list your property with Property Pick at no cost to you. So this is just one of the ways where we as Property Pick also want to add value to sellers, and especially those who need to sell quickly for whatever reason. Why? Because we have a network of investors who are looking for your type of deals. So, there is an opportunity then for you to list your property at no cost. And then, of course, just to our investors, just to share with you, and of course, those of you who will be becoming investors, just be reminded of the 3 different packages that we have now. We used to have just one package, but we've now launched 3 different packages to cater for different investor needs. So have a look at those different packages, see a lot of the value adds that we've also bring about as part of those packages, because really there are some value adds and opportunities for investors. So have a look at that. Go onto our website, www.propertypick.co.za. If you haven't subscribed to our newsletter, I also encourage you, just subscribe to our newsletter. Even if you maybe not an investor today or not a seller today, subscribe to our newsletter. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We will be making the links available in the chat, and just stay connected to us and see what's happening. And of course, we are always bringing a lot of updates and sharing some insights and knowledge as far as the property market is concerned. And of course, we want to add value to both our investors and our sellers out there. So I think that's it from my side, Leroy. Thanks.
No, that's good. Guys, we've loaded a few more deals on there. So go to the website, subscribe if you're looking for deals. All the best. God bless.
Awesome. God bless you, everyone, and goodbye.
Look at the deals on the website. Yes, bye.